Welcome, Lucy and Charlie. As I've just mentioned to you both off air, I've done a bit of an introduction, and I believe you two don't need an introduction to each other because you know each other already. Is that right?
Yeah. We were at Birmingham Uni together. Yeah, know each other quite well.
Plenty of competitive Monopoly games over the years.
And plenty of stories to share, which we'll either get onto or maybe avoid, depending on where you want to go with the podcast. As always, we kick off every podcast. I will give an introduction, or I'll certainly let you both introduce. I should let you introduce each other, but no, I won't put you on the spot. I'll let you introduce yourself to our audience in just a second. Before we do that, I always like to start by asking our guests for an inspirational person who's maybe inspired them in some way, usually to do with their sport, but it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to start with Lucy. I'm going to ask you, Lucy, can you think of somebody who has inspired you in your life to maybe take up sport or run in particular, or if not, just anything in general that inspired you?
I think not one, actually. I'm going to have to go with both my brother and my sister. They are sort of 10, both of them are 10, 11 years older than me, and they were very sports orientated from a really young age. So I just grew up watching them do a lot of sport, down at the track, watching them sort of do the YDLs, and they're both cracking athletes in their respective sports and in athletics as well. And yeah, they just sort of laid the groundwork for me all the way through my youth. And yeah, as soon as I could get on the track with them, I did. So yeah, definitely my brother and sister.
Amazing. And am I right in thinking, did your sister go to school with Gemma, my wife? Is that right?
Yeah, small world. So my sister, I think they're in probably the same year or close enough. And they did a lot of racing together, didn't they? So
they did, yeah. Well, here's a random one for you. I bumped into your sister. I met her for the first time on Valentine's Day this year. And yeah, I decided that I was going to kind of break tradition and actually do something on Valentine's Day this year. So I booked the cinema. I booked to see Bridget Jones for Gemma because she loves it. And then we bumped into your sister who'd also had the same idea.
I'm not surprised she was out to see Bridget Jones, to be fair. That's very funny.
But yeah, it was a surprisingly decent film considering it was like the last thing I'd want to do on a night. But yeah, it was all right.
Nice.
Oh, brilliant. Well, shout out to both your brother and sister, Lucy. That's a very nice introduction. Charlie, over to you. Inspirational figure from your life so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think my one would probably be, I have to give it to my first coach when I was younger. Like I started pretty young, like primary school. So the guy called Mick Jones over at Blackie from Bromley coached me probably from I was like 10 up to like 17, 18. And I think it's such an important part of like age just to have fun and enjoy it. Like I wasn't really like winning races or anything like that. But I think just keep turning up every week, and he made sure I did that. And once you're older, you sort of keep the love going and yeah, see what you can do with it. So I think that was probably a good one.
So you set the tone really for your career to enjoy what you did rather than see it as competitiveness all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Like we'd go down track every Tuesday, Thursday night, like and just have a good laugh really.
Brilliant. Yeah, really good. And I guess let's give a shout out to coaches right from the get-go, because I think coaches pave the way for us in our sport, but also our life as well. You know, what they do with us dictates a lot of our choices as we go through life, not just in sport. And you have two brilliant coaches yourselves, and I want to give a shout out to them first off. So Charlie, you're with Jethro, who works with NLC, and I know he's done a cracking job with you. And then Lucy, you're with Jeff, I believe. And yeah, you both seem to have really good relationships. I'll come to Lucy first. When did that relationship start for you with Jeff at Herne Hill?
Yeah, so I moved to London, it would be about a year and a half ago now, and I actually wasn't running at all. I wasn't running competitively, and I wasn't really running anymore. And a few of my friends were running at Herne Hill, and they convinced me just to come down for a session, just for the social, just for the fun of it, really. So I went down in sort of October. And Jeff was really kind. He just sort of said to jump in the sessions. He asked me a few questions, but just said, just jump in and enjoy it. And if you want to race, you can. And there was no pressure. By January, I was like jumping into the the Surrey leagues and just doing a bit of racing for fun and starting to really, really enjoy it. And then just asking for the odd bit of advice from Jeff, just because he was there and he was really helpful and he was really positive. And then I had a really good track season, and by probably the end of the track season, he was coaching me and I was flying and really, really enjoying it again. So yeah, never look back.
Bit of a correlation now already with what Charlie was saying about like the enjoyment factor. And I was just on a podcast earlier and we were chatting about how we see a real positive correlation between people who enjoy what they do and then the performance. So it's nice that the performance came second and you found your love for it again. I know you two were connected at Birmingham. As we mentioned, you didn't need to introduce each other. You are very familiar with each other. Charlie, you've been a big part of that Birmingham setup for a while. You work with Jethro now. When did that relationship start and how has it blossomed?
Wow, I mean, I guess we've known each other for like 7 years now. So Jeffro's in the year above me at Birmingham. And then obviously graduated, sort of went into coaching, became a coach. And yeah, I think our coaching relationship started like nearly 18 months ago now. And I was looking for a coach like a little bit closer to home. So my previous coach, Will, we worked together really well for like 6 years, but both had full-time jobs at this point, both sort of WhatsApping as much as we could, but maybe not. Neither of us were WhatsApp as much as we wanted to. And so yeah, I started working with Jeff. Obviously he was sort of already doing big things at that point, and yeah, I got on while you still can.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because you're both similar age, and not often you have people coach each other a similar age. But it takes a lot of trust to put into somebody who is that similar age. But he has had a lot of success, and yeah, I know he was very excited when you came on board because he's a bit more renowned for the middle distance athletes he works with, and he was excited by the challenge of working with somebody over the longer distances who wanted to progress to that marathon. So yeah, it was nice to see that come to fruition a week. Well, God, it's over a week already, isn't it, since London Marathon? I do want to start with London. I kind of want to reverse engineer this conversation because I feel like we've got so much to unpick. I kind of want to go to the result first before we then go like right back to the start. So I'll start with you, Lucy. Firstly, was it a conscious decision to stand on that mass start line over the elite women, or did you have to do that?
No, I kind of wanted to stick with the mass just because I train with a lot of the guys at Herne Hill. I've got some really great friends, and I just really wanted to go with them. I didn't actually end up running with them, but it's just nice to be in the championship start and just genuinely focusing on the enjoyment. Like, where would I have the most fun? And it would be with all my friends in the championship start, like getting on that start line with everyone. But aside from that, I genuinely didn't think it was an opportunity just to stand on the elite. I know that I felt like you needed to have ran a decent marathon beforehand to get on that elite start line. And yeah, just never really gave it a second thought. I just knew that I'd probably be on championship and thought that would probably also be the best thing for me. So I didn't really question otherwise.
Good decision. And yeah, we'll come on to it. But obviously, first from the mass start, which was the first female across that finish line, which is an incredible achievement. And I noticed when you were coming past, I don't know what it is, but when the first group of women come past in the masses, they seem to generate a lot of noise, which is brilliant. Could you feel that energy and noise from the side?
Yeah, I didn't really realise where I was. I could hear people throughout the race saying sort of third lady and then second lady, and then sort of some people shouting first lady, some people shouting second. So I had a broad idea. I thought, God, it must be a bit further up than I thought. But yeah, honestly, the crowds are insane. I've never, ever experienced anything like it. And obviously, I was giving it a bit of this, which was really nice because then it was just electric, which was really, really nice. I've honestly never experienced anything like it. It was amazing.
Do you know what? I was speaking to somebody in the week, an athlete I coach, and he put it really nicely. He'd actually nicked this from somebody else, but he said, we all imagine what like elite sport would be like, for like a professional footballer and you're walking out in front of 50,000 people or whatever in a stadium. And he said, no matter what standard you are in London Marathon, you get that experience because you have like thousands of people just cheering for you, no matter what standard you are, and really uplifting you. So it feels like everybody kind of gets that elite athlete experience, even if you're part of the masses, you're running for charity, or you're the front end. And yeah, it was visible to see. So I'm glad you felt that way as well.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it felt like so a friend of mine actually said later in the last week that she just felt like, as you say, it's such a big thing for even just the elites to do, all the way back to sort of your like more general, just like day-to-day runner. It's such a hard thing to do for everyone that it just feels so much bigger and so much more of an achievement. Obviously, the track races and road racing is still amazing, but the marathon for everyone is just amazing achievement. So yeah, I think that's very true.
You mentioned the YDL. It's not quite the same atmosphere, is it? I mean, I'm all for track leagues. I'm not dissing them because we've got to start somewhere, but yeah, it's a little bit different.
No one asked us to do a shot after.
So yeah, say that again. Sorry, Charlie.
No one asked us to do a shot put after.
No, very true.
Or the
Very
4x4.
true. Yeah. Go and line up on the 4x4 start line, or go and jump on the long jump pit. Yeah, so true. Charlie, it was it was really good watching you. You were sporting the NLC vest. I'll go on to that in a moment about you both being part of the NLC performance team, which has been a great initiative this year. But you're in an NLC vest, and for me personally, having founded that company, 6 years ago now, seeing an NLC vest towards the front end of like London Marathon, that was like a bit of a dream come true for me. And yeah, I just saw you at like after Cutty Sark, and shouted you, and you gave a kind of a wave, and I was like, God, he's chilled here. That's good. That's a good sign. But you had that quite unique experience where the elites have gone off and you're in that championship start, but you are right behind them. Is it hard not to get drawn into that pace early on?
It was, you had to sort of the first couple of miles, you had to like keep a lid on some things. I was quite lucky. After I started, sort of wriggled through a gap, and I saw a friend like 20 meters up the road that I'd just been on a training camp with. So I sort of caught up to him, had a chat with him for the first like half a mile, which sort of kept things calm. And then you sort of start looking for a group. And then obviously they started to form around like mile, 2 miles. You sort of settle in for the run. Yeah, I tried to keep pretty calm the first half, like half of the race. High fiving all the kids on the side was good. Just enjoying like soaking up the atmosphere. I didn't expect it to be so busy with like crowds the whole way round. I thought it'd be maybe like Tower Bridge and in the end, but like it was so good.
Yeah, it was insane. It's the hardest I've found it to get on, like right to the front of the barriers, no matter where I was on the course. Usually it's pretty clear at certain points, but it was just busier than ever. And yeah, you had a cracking run. And again, I'll come on to London in more detail as we go, but just to kind of set the scene, obviously 7th from the men's mass start, which is an incredible achievement. I believe it was 7th. I've got that right, haven't I, Charlie?
Yeah, I think it was 7th. I mean, I had no clue until literally until I finished. Like, you could have told me any number at the end. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I think I had a feeling once we started catching some of the elites after like sort of in Canary Wharf. I was like, the road's looking a bit empty up here. Like, there's not too many people around. But yeah.
Fantastic. Well done both. And yeah, I want to kind of finish the podcast episode back at London, but I just wanted to kind of set that scene as to where you both are now on that journey when it's very fresh, we're just over a week out of London and amazing achievements, and then go back. So I do want you to kind of spend some time introducing yourself to our audience and maybe giving an insight into how that athletics journey started, and then progress all the way back to London, and we'll talk through the race in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to hand over to you, Lucy, to start us off. Like, where did your athletics journey start? And enlighten our audience with a bit more information about yourself.
Yeah, so I started athletics probably I was 9 or 10. I ran at Charlton Athletic Club, which is based in Loughborough. And as I say, just followed in my brother and sister's footsteps straight onto the track under Derek and Madeline, who were two unbelievable coaches. And yeah, they really just instilled the love for the sport and just enjoyment, and really the social aspect of it throughout my sort of younger years, all the way through until I was about 18. And then I took a punt and went out to America on a athletic scholarship for Temple University, and had an amazing experience. I didn't quite run as fast as I'd like. It sort of clicked for me, but yeah, had a great experience there, and then came and finished my degree back at Birmingham Uni alongside Charlie. And yeah, I was under Luke Gunn there, and had a really nice experience. Yeah, and just kept enjoying it and being super social and having fun. And then, yeah, ended up in London and under Jeff at Herne Hill. So, yeah, that's pretty much my journey.
Nice. It was nice to see some comments on your social media as well, like particularly Luke, who was commenting saying like, well done team, and somebody who's been part of that journey. And yeah, I think Jeff said to me, Lucy, that it was your mum who always says it takes a village to build an athlete or to build anything.
Yeah, genuinely, I feel like I just can't explain how many people it takes to get an athlete all the way to, I don't know, wherever they get to in the end. But honestly, the amount of amazing coaches that have just kept me in the sport and really helped me keep the love for it, even when it's really been really tough, or you're not really sure, you're in your late teens or your early 20s, and especially for girls that are, there tends to be a bit of a rough patch there for a lot of girls. I think just having someone on your shoulder that's positive and just reminding you that it is still fun and you can still enjoy it and you are still talented, and yeah, just keeping you in the sport until it all comes around was honestly the best thing I could ask for. I couldn't ask for any more of any of the coaches I've had, really.
Yeah, and it was really nice to hear you say like it was like literally the best day of your life, London Marathon, and but also some good examples there to people who are listening, and particularly young people in the sport who do go through rough patches. Like you can have time away, you can spend some time away, and you can come back and you can bounce back.
Yeah, I genuinely say, and I kind of love this because I think that it's so important. There was probably a decade, like probably 16 to 26, where I had a really good junior career or career and placed well and really felt like I really wanted to do well in the sport and felt like I could, or there was something there. But then just things didn't click, no matter how hard I tried, or the different things that I tried, or how much effort I put in. It just didn't click for me for honestly a decade. I just kept trying and kept telling myself that hopefully someday it'll all turn around, and it did. And I think that is the most important thing for young athletes is if you go through a patch of a few years and it's not quite working for you, just stick in there, because more often than not, that's the most important thing. If you're still there when you're coming out the other side, then you've got a really good chance of doing really well and getting back there.
Yeah, it's a really nice message. A really nice message. So your paths crossed at Buac. That was later on for you, Lucy, and obviously for you, Charlie. What about yourself, Charlie? Where did your athletics career start? Tell us a little bit more about Charlie, the runner and the non-runner.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I mentioned, I started pretty young at like primary school. Got into it there. It just seemed to be quite a big thing at my school. I don't know why. But so I got in there. One of the first big race I did was actually the mini marathon.
Nice.
So I did that when I must have been like 11. And then after that, I joined Blackheath and Bromley, which is like the local club. So yeah, training with Mick there up until 17, 18. And then, yeah, I went to Birmingham, and I didn't really know much about athletics at uni at all. So I sort of just lucked upon coming into this Birmingham setup. I remember FaceTiming my mum like a few weeks in. I was like, yeah, they seem to take it pretty seriously here. Like I'm either gonna get well involved or just sack it off in a couple of weeks. Luckily, I think I made the right choice. And yeah, so I was at Birmingham for 5 years doing my degree there. Graduated in 2022. Decided to hang around in Birmingham since then. So yeah, I've been working and training for the last few years now.
So on Sunday when we were at the pub, it was Jeff who told me this. So I hope I've got my information correct here. But you were stood having a drink and one of our other athletes having a drink, and I believe that was one of your lecturers from university.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so Prof Lumley, I suppose, as I as I still call him, was yeah, he was actually dean of the dental school before I started. But he was still doing the lecturing and the tutoring when I came through. So yeah, he's
Nice.
another Jeffro athlete as well. So
He is, yeah, he is. He's had some success under Jethro. Unfortunately, Phil Lumley, or Prof Lumley, as you know him, he had a bit of a hip issue in London, but it was actually really nice to see that, to see those connections through the sport and where you've all kind of been and that journey. But then, as you both mentioned already, the marathon just brings everybody together. It's like one big community, and no matter what, or what time you cross the line, everyone's crossed that line with the same achievement, 26.2 miles. And yeah, it was amazing to see all those different stories on the day. Oh, brilliant. Well, when I mentioned this podcast episode to Jethro, he said, oh, it'd be great. They went to university together. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So it shows you start to hear things that you didn't know within the running world. So you both kind of had that success on and off. And traditionally what happens with most runners is that they progress to the marathon, which is, I believe, the case for you both, starting with kind of track and road and then cross country as well. Lucy, for you mentioned league races, but what was your kind of specialist distance when you were a younger athlete? Did you have a preferred distance or anything that you like to compete at?
Yeah, so I actually love the 1500 and I still love the 1500. That's definitely my preferred distance out of everything.
Wow.
And yeah, I loved it when I was younger and I still love it now.
Interesting. Even now, after London Marathon being the best day of your life.
Okay, the marathon they might be on par, but I do love a 1500. I just think, yeah, it's super fun and super quick and it's over really quickly.
Interesting. So would you say that even though it's your favorite distance, is that like a really good distance for you as well? Was it like an event that you were really good at?
I'd say as I'm getting a bit older, I think I probably haven't quite got the turnover as some of the girls that are super, super sort of talented at 15, but maybe 3 and 5K suit me a little bit better. I think I could give that a good crack and do some good times over there. I will always try and hang on for dear life over 15. I think there's still some seconds in there. I could maybe get a bit quicker, but yeah, it's purely for the fun of it. Mostly, I think when it comes to the 15.
Nice. I think it's good for our audience to hear that though, because like for them, a lot of the people who tune into this podcast are kind of your mass runners. The people who love this sport and they go and race regularly, but they race regularly over distances usually 5K and above. But what I like about your answer there is you're showing that you don't necessarily have to limit yourself just to these longer distances. Sometimes you can drop down and test that speed, and there's some benefits to that as well, right?
Yeah, I think well, firstly, it's a bit of fun. I think it takes the pressure off. If you're constantly racing a distance that's really important to you, then it becomes very time based and just more pressure, I suppose, less likely to be as much fun. So I think I tend to enjoy just racing across the full board of everything and as much as I can. And okay, some of the times might not necessarily be as fast as I like, but that's all right. It's just a bit of fun, really. And yeah, it just mixes it up, makes training and racing a bit less boring. And yeah, means that you're less likely to get in a rut, I suppose, if you're not constantly, racing and training just over the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and without going too kind of scientific as well, it also mixes up the training demands as well, doesn't it? And it allows you to work on certain qualities. So yeah, really good way of looking at it. All right, Charlie, I wasn't expecting 1500 meters for Lucy, but you're going to tell me now that you like ultras or something. But yeah, what about yourself?
I think I'm a bit more predictable. I think I've always just favoured the cross country. Like, I've done track 50. Well, yeah, I wouldn't include 8. So yeah, I've done track like 15 and above for years. But yeah, I feel like I was always able to like punch above my weight a bit on the cross country. So I'd always get a bit more enjoyment out of that and just seemed to suit me more. And I think I was sort of I always knew I'd maybe want to move up to the marathon. I was just like putting it off as much as I could. And then I was like, this year, I was like, no, I've got to do it now. But Yeah, I really enjoyed lacrosse. I think it's good for everyone. Like, you get so many different things out of a good winter season with a bit of mud and hills in there that, you know, everyone can benefit.
I agree, and I think some of the best cross country runners make the best marathon runners. And I guess my theory behind that is you're so good at listening to the body and running to feel, and I think that's a huge skill that you need within the marathon, particularly marathon training, because Lucy kind of touched on it. You can become a bit obsessive with pace, and when you're trying to hit splits, but actually, we all know that sometimes in training those splits just don't add up. Like you come away from a session and you think, how the heck am I going to run that for 26.2 miles? Like 5 miles felt hard at that pace today. So you need to be really intuitive with the body. But then on the race day as well, you will have experienced this firsthand now. The watch just plays all sorts of tricks on you, doesn't it? And yeah, you've got to really be dialed into it. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that you always had those thoughts. What was putting you off the distance, the marathon? Anything in particular, Charlie?
I think I still felt like I had unfinished business on the track and like the short distance, like the 15 and the 5K. I think I can live with my PBs there now. I think I might go and revisit some of them and try like step down and do a bit of work. But I wanted to make sure I sort of could walk away happy. Like I think it'd be tough now to run a quicker 15 than I did a few years ago. But not impossible. So, we'll see what happens.
I think you could, Charlie. I think you could.
Feel like there's a bet coming on here. Yeah, well, you wouldn't be the first people, both of you, to drop down from the marathon and start running PBs over the shorter stuff. We see that a lot, and people running PBs on the way to the marathon as well. Which, yeah, if we go there next, I mean, Lucy, I saw you. I think it was New Year's Eve in Battersea racing over 5K. You had a cracking run there, and it just seemed like you were going from strength to strength over the shorter stuff. We obviously knew that you were going to the marathon and you were going to race London. But yeah, was that an indication that things were going well in training for you? Because it wasn't just the 5, there was 10s and halves in there as well, I believe.
Yeah, so I just managed to, I think it was also massively just the year of consistency that had beforehand, and it just all started to click. I think I started to reap the rewards of, just being super consistent, and also just building on confidence. Just my confidence was coming on leaps and bounds every week. And I think that showed in sort of the progression of sort of race times from sort of September last year to sort of now. I think I started to actually believe in myself a bit and think, oh, I could actually maybe go a little bit quicker next week. So that sort of showed. And yeah, I didn't really do anything different in my training. And even in the marathon block, and Charlie, you probably had the same, because we were working full time, there's only so many miles you can get in. Only so many miles you can get in, I suppose. So my mileage didn't actually go up very much. I just got in what I could. But I think just the confidence and the sort of consistency of the year before sort of carried me through. Yeah.
I think it's a really important point you make, Lucy, because again, a lot of our listeners will work full time and they'll be sat here thinking, well, how can I relate to Lucy and Charlie? They are full-time athletes, they're sponsored, and like that's not the reality of our sport. The reality of our sport is that you go to work every day and you're like every other athlete where you're trying to fit this in around what you do. I think what elite athletes do really well compared to, the mass market who maybe aren't coached is that we plan it meticulously and we look at our time and how we're going to balance that, and we commit to things, and you have a very strategic plan, which I imagine you do with your coaches as to where you're going to race. And we don't over race either. A lot of the masses do that for social elements, and I totally get that. But like you said, there's only so much you can fit in. There's only so much you can do. And I'm not going to touch on mileage and things like that, because I think everybody's different as well. And I know people will be sat here thinking, oh, Lewis, we'll ask the question how many miles they do, but I think that's irrelevant to people. I think you've got to find out what works for you, and everybody's different. 55,000 people or whatever it was this year stood on that start line in London. Everyone will have trained a different way, and that's the beauty of it. Like, everyone gets different results, everyone trains in different ways. So we will go into the training in a little bit of detail and ask you for certain things that you feel like worked for you. But I think you make a really good point, Lucy, about that balance is so key, isn't it?
Yeah, for definite. It worked for me anyway.
Yeah, well, good. Absolutely. So, Charlie, coming on to you then. So, I guess I'm going to start there with a bit of the training because how did your training vary over the winter for you? I noticed you did Reading half. I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit here because you didn't enter Wilmslow. And like, unless Jeff the Source is wrong. But yeah, what about backtracking from Reading? Because you had a solid half there, but winter looked a little bit different, I assume.
Yeah, it was probably more different than I thought it would be. Like, I think when I sort of came to Jeff with the idea of, I'm going to do London next year, I think it was coming off the back of last year. I'd sort of got up to, maybe like 80, 90 mile a week. I know we said we won't talk about numbers. And, doing like a big long run every Sunday. And I thought, actually, like, surely there's not that much different I'd need to do to train for the marathon. In the end, it was actually quite different. Like a lot of the training. I'd say we sort of started in earnest after Valencia 10K in January. We'd sort of built up to that through the end of the year before, but I'd say that's when sort of it went in like marathon mode. I think one of the main things I was nervous about was the fueling. I'd been down to watch last year and I'd seen a lot of good runners get like undone by that. And I don't know if my tummy can take this. So they got a lot of practice in the gels. That was one thing that did, and use Reading to practice that as well a little bit. So
I'm intrigued then. I'll stick with you, Charlie, then I'll come back to Lucy. What were the gels or drinks of preference? And did you measure kind of like carbs per hour? Is that what you went for?
I had a ballpark. So yeah, I went for the Beta Fuel, which is like the dual source carbohydrates. I'd done some reading and that seemed good. So yeah, I think the ballpark was like 90. But in the end, it was sort of go for as much as I could feel comfortably, which worked out as one every 20 minutes. And yeah, I got comfortable with that in training. Built it up. I remember the first marathon session I did was like, I think it was the first time I'd had more than 2 gels in a run, and I went to the toilet like twice during the session. I was like, what have I got myself in for here? But yeah, we improved from there.
Yeah, he must have done to take on. Yeah, that's a good amount of carbs, like really solid amount. But again, some really insightful messages here for everyone, because I think the mistake a lot of people make is that they try something, they have an issue with it, and then they move away from it. But actually, training the gut is like training. We say to our athletes a lot of the time, you would expect your training to progress over a training block. You should probably do the same with your fueling. Don't start at like 100 grams, start maybe 40, 50, and then progress that. You want to progressively overload the fueling just as you do with the training. But it takes time, and it takes time for the stomach to tolerate that. And that's a really good example there, Charlie.
Yeah,
I guess.
I don't think I didn't get up to like full marathon level until like my last big session, which was like 3 weeks out. Up until that, it was kind of using the easier long runs as well was a good time to sort of stuff yourself a bit with carbs. And then I was almost more worried about that than the miles. I was like, I can get the running done, but yeah.
Well, that's familiarity, isn't it? You're like familiar with the miles, whereas the fueling's like something new. But I think it's a really good time to fuel is on those easy runs, because intensity wise, it's a lot lower. So if you can take those carbs on at that intensity, surely like at the higher intensity when you're burning them faster, then you're going to need them more. So I think if you can tolerate them at that easier intensity, then it's a good sign. Obviously, with the intensity being different, there's more strain on the stomach, as I get that. And the speed you guys are running, it's also quite hard to get them in as well. Is that something you found, Lucy, with yours? Were you with gels, bottles? What did you opt for?
So I actually just opted for 6 or 7, it might have even been, of the Morton gels. And I'm really lucky. I actually didn't have a problem at all from the start of getting on the gels. So, Charlie, it was actually the mileage I was scared of, not the gels. So, yeah, I went with a gel every 20 minutes, the same as you, Charlie. And then I just had my mum and dad, bless them, handed me a a water with hydration tab in at halfway, literally just for peace of mind, just have a couple of sips of like some electrolyte water, just to, I think it was more for a just peace of mind, and also I just wanted my parents to be involved. So they passed me a bit of like hydration water at halfway, but other than that I just took on 6.5 gels and it worked out really well. I had no issues, and yeah.
Nice. So my question for you both is, you're probably going to now be invited to stand on elite start lines at certain marathons. You know, you'll have that ability, and you'll then be able to put bottles on tables and, you know, take those bottles with fueling in. So do you switch to bottles, or do you stick to what worked? Or maybe do you try something in the future? Lucy, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely think I'll just stick to what works. I think gels are super easy. I feel like I could take on quite a lot for my height, and the liquid does that. I think might get me, having the liquid bouncing around in my stomach. I might give it a go, but why fix what's not broken, kind of. I might just stick with the gels, and then I'm not having to deal with veering off and grabbing the bottles, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Charlie?
Yeah, I struggled with the liquids in training. I think if that option came available, I think like give it a go in training and see if it works for you. I mean, it's what all the elites do, like the guys at the top. So I'm assuming there's some kind of benefit to it. But yeah, I think if you could get it to work, then you would. But I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't do it without trying it first. And I know the gels work, which is a nice sort of position to be in.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't see often is that the elites also like attach gels to the bottles, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think this is the misconception at home. When they see these bottles, they think that they're just nailing like half a litre of liquid every time with their carb mix in. But to get that amount of carbs in a drink format, you would have to drink a lot. And I know that from kind of working with a lot of ultra runners, like they take that over a period of time. But as you marathon runners, you're not, especially at your standard, you're not really out there for long enough to be able to tolerate like, you know, 2 liters of water, whatever, which would have to go in. So yeah, often the gel is strapped to the bottle, isn't it? And they'll take that gel off, but the cameras only usually show them kind of sipping away at the drink and then throwing them away. But often they've stashed the gel in there. But yeah, nice dilemma to have, right? If you're starting to get asked to put your water bottle somewhere, it shows things are going well. All right, so you both came on board with the performance team in the new year when these races were happening. This was a concept that Jethro came up with. He came to me with an idea and I was like fully on board with it. In fact, when we set New Levels coaching up, I always said to Gemma, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have like an elite team one day and, you know, to try and fund that. That's still like the dreams down the line, is to have like this elite team, because I think that's the way the sport's going as well. And back to your point about your mum's point, Lucy, like it does take like a village to support people. So I think this team, you know, I think it's probably been nicked from cycling, but people are having like psychologists and nutritionists all within the same team. So it'd be great to eventually have something like that. But we wanted to start small and build something. And the two of you came on board, which we're absolutely delighted with. And we wanted to create that bit of environment. On the day, Charlie, you had the NLC vest on. Lucy, you had it on in the half. But Lucy, you were part of the Puma project as well, which I heard was very, very good for you, based off what I saw online.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it in the end. I think when people were saying sort of first lady, I was thinking, well, you better get your legs moving, because I swear if anyone comes past you. It was a really, I was so lucky to be on that. I think I just sort of put a speculative application in December when they released the applications, and just thinking nothing of it, and then got an email in sort of February saying you've been accepted, and sort of dilly-dallied on whether it would be the right way to go, but just thought, do you know what, I can't hurt to try. And they were really good, really supportive, gave us a bit of kit and some lovely shoes to try out, and then sent us on our way in the nice bright orange.
Well, one of the questions I've been dying to ask you is, how were the shoes? Because they are like getting raving reviews everywhere, and the literature shows that they might be the new best thing out there. Were they good for you? Yeah,
so I was quite worried about them actually. When we first received them, they were too big for me, and I was like, oh God, I hope these end up actually fitting. And they sent me another pair, which is great. And then they ended up fitting. And I actually didn't run in them at all until the week before the marathon, because I'd been in Fonton and hadn't received them. Did a few miles in them and thought, great, they seem quite nice. They suited me down to the ground, quite aggressive. So feel more like a 5-10K shoe, I'd say. Definitely nowhere near as chunky as the Adidas or maybe the Nike. Is it Alpha Flies or probably more similar to a Vaporfly. Quite responsive and like snappy. So if probably you like that sort of cushioned feel, they might not be necessarily what you'd want, but all in all, suited me down to the ground, like really snappy, really responsive, allowed you to be really aggressive. I'd happily wear them again, probably over anything else.
Interesting. So, yeah. Okay, right. Well, there's a bit of a first-hand review. Charlie,
and they didn't pay me to say that either. Genuinely.
Well, they did pay you
a bit. What was your weapon of choice, Charlie? What were the shoes on your feet?
Yeah, I went for the Hoka Rocket X2s.
Nice.
It wasn't my original plan to wear them because I felt like they were more of a 5K, 10K shoe. I got a pair in like January. I did a couple of races in them. I did all my training in a pair of like beat up Vaporflies, which are sadly no longer with us. But like Reading half, I ran in them and I was like, you know what, like these are really comfy. I really like them. Like I may as well just run the marathon in them. And yeah, I managed to get another pair sort of a couple of weeks before. And yeah, quite like them.
Nice.
They were comfy. Few blisters on my toes afterwards, but like nothing during, which is, yeah, I feel like you don't want to know too much about your shoes in a marathon. Like they felt like they were helping. Yeah.
The key word is comfy, which is what you're saying. Like all the research points to that is like what's the best shoe, and comfort wins every time.
Yeah.
Like when it comes out to what people say is the best. Obviously there are some performance elements to some of these shoes now. Just intrigued, were you not tempted by the new Hokas, because they've got a new one out, haven't they?
Yeah, I was. I just wasn't tempted to fork out for them. I was like, I've got this pair of shoes like already, and I like them. I think I might try them for the next one. I know Ross after the marathon was saying good things about the new Hokas. Yeah, I might have to get a pair of them and try them out.
Well, you get a pair of shoes through us, I believe. I'm sure that's part of the contract. So there you go. So yeah, put it in and get them on your feet. I had a pair. Somebody sent us a pair kindly, so we've got a couple of pairs in the house, and I've not tried them, but I put them on in the kitchen. I was like, oh wow, these are a bit different. But then I hadn't run in carbon until recently, because I stopped racing in the era just before carbon. So carbon shoes feel very alien to me, and I'm like, just give me an old pair of Bostons where like there's nothing to them and I can feel every step. But it's probably not the most beneficial. But I have worn the Vaporflies now, and I can see what all the fuss is about. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see how these make a difference. Yeah. So then, yeah, with the training, you mentioned Font, Lucia. We'll go on to the training next. I believe you both went away on training camps. Jethro was up in Fontramore with Birmingham, which was great because it meant he had a chance to see you, and he kind of said, "Oh, by the way, Lucy's going pretty well," which is great. So,
did he? Bless him.
Yeah, he did. He said, I think he said it was a 400 session though that he saw you do on the track actually, which is always a good sign when that sort of stuff's going well in marathon training.
Yeah.
So, what was the decision to go to Font? Why was that decision made? And also, what did the training look like up there? Because that was like right in the middle of that specific block, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically the decision was made because a couple of my training partners, Sophie and Hannah, they were having their 2-month paid sabbatical. Unbelievable scenes over that time, and they'd also mentioned that it might be nice to go up to altitude. They'd never been, and I just so happened to apply for a new job and had a period of 2 weeks, 3 weeks between my finishing my last job and starting my new job around that time. So we just decided to use a really small window of opportunity we'd all got to get up to Font, and for literally 3 weeks and see what was happening, see how much training we could get in. It went really well. Well, actually, I'll actually be completely honest and say I was traumatized. It was really hard. For the first week or so, especially the marathon sessions, I was doing them on my own because I went up with a group. Obviously, I went up with Sophie and Hannah, but they're predominantly 8 and 15 girls, and Birmingham weren't out there yet. So for the first sort of 2 weeks, week and a half, I ran all the marathon stuff on my own, which was fine, but actually it was really tough. But I think that was a good thing because I did everything on my own, almost all of it on my own at Font, all of the longer stuff. And you're on your own on marathon day. So you're not going to have anyone on the bike or anyone really dragging you along. So I think that actually did me good because I found the marathon training at Font really tough. So by the time I got to the marathon, it was dandy. I was fine.
Yeah, a bit of mindset training up at altitude. Yeah. And I think that the tricky thing that people maybe do or don't know about altitude is quite often with the longer stuff, it's hard to hit race pace, isn't it? It's hard enough at home, but when you're at altitude as well, particularly in that first week or two when you're still adjusting, that's really tricky, and that can play on the mind as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Sort of I hadn't really done much marathon pace stuff before I got to Font because obviously fitting it in with work. I just was more focused on getting the mileage in. And again, going back to that enjoyment piece, I kept speed work in and kept training with my training group on a Tuesday. So actually kept speed work all the way through the block just because I didn't want to lose that enjoyment. I didn't want to be doing sessions on my own away from my training group. I just wanted to train with my friends. So we consciously kept in that Tuesday speed work, because my coach, Jeff, fully believes that doing speed work and having that within your block is just as important as the longer stuff. But because I just love that bit the most, so we just wanted to focus on having a lot of fun. So I didn't actually do much marathon pace stuff until I got up to Font, which was sort of 6 weeks out-ish, 6-7 weeks out from the marathon, and then jumped into a few marathon pace long runs. Really struggled for the first couple of weeks of Font. And then it all clicked and I was okay. But as you say, but I actually wasn't hitting anywhere near what I hit in the marathon for the first sort of week or two I was out in Font. I wasn't even close, but it is probably because of the altitude. I was traumatized though.
Well, it's good to hear. And yeah, it'll be good for our audience to hear that, because I think that is the biggest thing that plays on people's mind into marathon. Like, I've not run that pace in training. How am I going to do it on the day? But from experience and having coached, too many people to a marathon now, I see a correlation for sure that the people who hit or do well on marathon day often step up. So they train slower and race faster. Like, that is definitely a correlation that we see. They certainly can up their game on race day. And the ones who kind of run faster in training sometimes don't produce on the day, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I think Jeff did a really good job with me and just saying, just run to feel. Like I almost didn't even look at my watch at all while I was doing any marathon pace stuff through the whole block. And that just really benefited me on race day, because after the first 10 miles, I actually switched my pace off, or I switched it to heart rate and just kind of just ran completely to feel the entire way through. And I knew, I know my body, and Charlie, you'll probably feel the same. I literally was like, I know I'm fine. I think I'm going to make it to the end. And then didn't really make a move until 20. And then by that point, I was just, I knew that I'd be fine. And I knew that I was probably going to make it without the wheels falling off. So yeah, that did me good. Just running to feel the whole time.
Well, we'll touch on race strategy and execution in a minute, because I seen Charlie at a number of points, and yeah, I had a quick chat with him after. So I'm sure our listeners will want to hear about that. Before we go on to it, Charlie, you didn't go to Font, I believe. I think you went to a different place, didn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been to Font a few times. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I went to Murcia, sort of, it's been like 4 weeks out maybe. So for a couple of weeks, I think I didn't want to risk it with the altitude. I've been a few times and never quite come off of the end of it how you sort of want to. And also just 3 weeks off work was not quite in the like, yeah, I could have done it, but it would have been a horrible rest of the year. So yeah, we went to Mercia with a little group of guys been training with. Like Johnny Davis, I did a lot of the marathon block with, so he came out. We had a bit of a mix. We had like Ollie Dustin in there as well. He's obviously training for 800 meters, so not a marathon man, but yeah, so we had a good group out there. And I've never actually been warm weather training before. That was the first time. And I think the decision was mainly because it should be a bit nicer. And actually, I think the warm weather element actually sort of paid off a bit more than we would have expected on race day, because obviously it ended up being really hot. And actually, like, the conditions are fairly similar to what we trained in Mercia, which is not what you're expecting for a London marathon. Yeah, it worked out quite nicely that way. And yeah, there's so many good spots to train in out there, like long. It's quite good for marathon training. You got the track and everything, but there's a lot of like long trails, long rivers, like cycle paths and stuff where you just can get like miles and miles done without any interruption. Which is good.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit I've got here is I've been to both those places, and yeah, they're amazing for marathon training, both of them. But like you say, the people who maybe can't get to altitude are now understanding more about heat training, and there's been a big push certainly this last year on the benefits of heat training. I think more and more people are doing it. You see these heat suits and stuff that are kicking about, and yeah, it's certainly big in the ultra endurance world. But I think you're right, Charlie. I think it probably did help because all of a sudden it was like Costa del London, wasn't it, on the day? It was like, oh, my word, what's happened here? And people panic as well, right, because they've not done any training in that weather. So they start to worry a little bit. But when you've been out to that climate, the mind was probably at ease as well, which helps because you've done all your training in that type of weather. So, yeah. Before we move on to the actual kind of race day, what was this about a stomach bug in that was going around on your camp? Why didn't you get it and the other guys did?
I did get it. I got it.
Did you?
I didn't get it. I didn't get it as bad as Sam. I think he was probably, sounds like he suffered the worst. But he thinks it's down to these. We went to a very like off the beaten track restaurant, like full of locals. So you kind of know it's quite authentic. And everyone had these like green runner beans on their table, and we asked the waiter like, "Oh, what are those?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this like local delicacy." So we're like, "Oh, we'll have some of them." And he bought those. Like, don't have too many, like it upsets your tummy. And I only had one, but I think the record was 10 for someone on the table.
Ouch.
We got quite lucky actually, because I started to feel ill on like the day we left. But like that was the day after we'd done like the last big marathon pace session. I sort of got through that like fine. Yeah, so it did take a bit of a hit the week after.
So the build-ups obviously went well. It's actually good to hear. It's quite refreshing, and again, our audience will appreciate this, that it wasn't the perfect build-up for either of you, and you have your worries and your good sessions and also those ones where you think, oh God, how am I going to do this? But I just want to pick out some kind of highlights for you both. So I'll go to Lucy first and to Charlie. Anything that you found that you particularly loved as part of the marathon training, and anything that really surprised you? So two elements, like the love factor, what was the most enjoyable thing, and what was the most surprising thing?
I think the most enjoyable thing was probably seeing the progression and training with the group. I just really honestly, I just really enjoyed getting more miles in with my friends, and it was really good fun. We're progressing and all the excitement around it. I've never been, obviously doing London but doing it with 30 of your sort of best friends. They're all doing it as well, and you're all training hard together. That was the most like fun and enjoyable bit for me, seeing everyone else progress and get more and more excited as it went on and gain confidence. And just the build up was like nothing else, because it does only happen once a year and it's such a big event that it was just really good fun. And then probably the most surprising thing, probably how much increasing my mileage, but also keeping in the speed work and those sort of sessions, how much more confident I was getting, not just on the longer stuff, but also really confident that once I stepped back onto the track, after the marathon that I would be also super fit and really able to give that a good crack too. I could see just as the block went on, my fitness just getting so much better, and just seeing the progression that I really wanted to see, and reaping the rewards of big block. So yeah, just seeing that, not just for marathon day, but for hopefully the months to come afterwards. Yeah, it's exciting.
Nice. Yeah. And confidence is a massive factor, right? Going into something like the marathon. So it's no surprise that if you're feeling good on the shorter stuff and that's what you enjoy, and then you're seeing progression on that, you're thinking, oh, this is a good sign as well.
Yeah.
Especially that volume's going up. Excellent. So same questions to you, Charlie. So yeah, the most enjoyable and most surprising.
Yeah, I think the most enjoyable thing for me is I feel like I love being in a position where you're like doing more, or you're doing stuff you've never done before. Like, oh, that's the longest session I've ever done. That's, longest week I've ever done. And you get a lot of that in the marathon training, which I think just, for me, it just keeps me like, I feel like like a dog with a bone. You're like, oh, just keep going more. And then you get to marathon time, like, all right, let's back off a bit now. I think the most surprising thing was, I think a guy touched on earlier, is like how different the training is. I feel like, I don't know if maybe it's just because my first one, but you'd almost like every session, like, did I get it done? If yes, good session. If no, bad session. I think you're used to kind of, you come off a track session of like a 5K, think like, oh, did I feel good? Did I hit the splits? Like, where was I in the group? And you could objectively hit a fairly decent session, but you come off like, oh, it's rubbish. Whereas like the marathon session, like, brilliant, I got it done. Like, I didn't shit myself, and like, I made it home in like great session. I don't know if that's something that will change when you've like, done a couple of marathons. You like start to get more of a feel of it. You get high standards. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was quite a nice way to train, I guess. Like
I genuinely
low
really
bar.
agree with
So you're both agreeing here, and
100%.
Well, it's interesting to hear it from the athlete's perspective, because as a coach, I'm sat here nodding, going, yeah, because the feedback, I guess I'm going to explain the feedback loop actually from my perspective as a coach. So if somebody's training, the first thing that I look at to come through is the activity, as you say, Charlie. Did they get the work done? And then the second thing I look at, particularly in marathon training, or the longer stuff, is what's their verbal feedback. So I go to that first. So what are they telling me about the session? And I take that on board first. And the third thing I go to is the statistics. And maybe that's a little bit different from when back in the day when I was coaching a lot more middle distance people. I'd often look at the statistics first, and then I'd ask, look at the feedback. I've probably learned over time that feedback's probably more important than the actual statistics. Start with you, Lucy. Like, what I took away from your performance was like an unbelievable finish. I think you went sub 35 for the last 10K, I believe. Your last two 5K splits were, I think your last 5K, like from 35 to 40K, was like 17:20 something, which I thought was like super impressive. You were like dialed in at around 18:03, 18:05 before that. But it shows like if you pace the right race, you can finish strong. Did it feel that way to you? Did you feel like you were picking up and progressing through?
Yeah, I did. After, I just wanted to get to 20, feeling good. And as I probably touched on before, once I got to 20, I just thought, okay, I have full confidence in myself that I can get to the end. And by the time I got to 20, I just thought, you know what? I think I'm feeling okay. Let's just start to move. And obviously, the crowd was insane in the last 6 miles. Obviously, you're heading all the way back towards sort of Westminster and Big Ben and towards the finish. So that whole 6 miles, I think, without even realizing it, I hadn't even looked at my watch from 20 till 26 even. And I'd switched it just to heart rate or something that I just couldn't see, basically. So I could just sort of get my head down. And yeah, I could feel that I was getting quicker. And I think, I was thinking, I think this is quite quick. I have no idea. I'm just going to run as hard as I can until I can get to the end. And I was also thinking, I really just want to stop running. So the quicker I can get to the end, the quicker I can walk. So yeah, but I was just really soaking it in, and I could hear so many of my friends and my mum and dad were at so many different places, and my coach. And yeah, so I just was gunning for home and really enjoying it. yeah.
And at what point did you realize what time you were on for? Was it when you saw that final clock as you turned the final
Yeah, pretty
straight?
much. Well, I thought I was about in shape for a ballpark 2:33, 2:34, and I'd gone through half a little bit up, probably 15, 20 seconds up on what I thought, and I felt good. So I was just like, okay, this might be a little bit quicker than what I'd expected, but we'll just keep going and see what happens. And then I went past my really good friend, my training partner Ashley, with I think about 4 miles to go, and usually he would come with me, or we'd always try and outkick each other. Like, we're really, really competitive. And I went past him, and he just looked up and didn't even come with me. And I thought, ooh, I might be moving quite quick for Ashley not to be coming with me, because he would never let me beat him ever. So yeah, but I just was really enjoying it, and just yeah, I didn't even want to get, well, I say I wanted to get to the finish. I also didn't want it to finish. I missed the 26-mile marker and looked up, and all of a sudden it said 350 yards to go. And I thought, oh my God, I'm literally right at the finish. So
Go
yeah.
for it. Yeah. What I love about that is I do believe that people sometimes lose the element of racing in a marathon, because it's easy to do, right? You're caught up in the masses, you're in your own race, you're completely looking at splits. But a lot of what you've described there was still racing to the finish, even picking out friends and racing those people. And yeah, everyone's competitive, right? So you want that element. But I just think it's such a good way to run when you're passing people. Like, mentally, you're getting so many positive vibes there. And it does become a bit of a death march in the last 6 miles. You see people who've dropped off, and they drop off significantly, don't they? Like, once it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
So if you're the one moving through there's so much positivity coming in the mind, and you're thinking, I do want it to end, but I don't, because I'm passing all these people. So
yeah. I think I just really didn't want it to be like that. I really, really stood on the start line, and I didn't want, I knew that I could ruin it for myself very early on, and if I wanted to, or if I did it wrong. So I just kind of was so adamant with myself to not do that. And I think that helped me towards the back end of the race. But yeah, also probably felt good on the day. So was really, really lucky for that.
Amazing. And yeah, that's a big part of it, isn't it? It has to go well on the day. There's a lot of people who are in amazing shape, and sometimes it's just not their day, but I'm glad it was. Charlie, I saw you throughout, and yeah, I'm not going to lie. I text Jethro at like 60.5 miles where I was stood, and I think he'd just seen you before that, and I was like, Charlie looks good here, Jeth. I was like, he's moving really well. And I think you said at that point, all the way through to about mile 20, you felt really good. And then, yeah, did it start to pinch a little bit towards the back end, did you say?
Yeah, I feel I'm quite jealous of Lucy's last.
That will probably never happen again. So.
That mine. Yeah, I think my thing was like, I wanted to get to 30K feeling pretty good. I went through maybe like a rough mile, like just after halfway, but like came out at the end of that, and I was like, at that point, I think I was moving the quickest I had in the race, and I was like, I got to like 25K, and we'd started to catch some elites. So I was like, well, this could be my day here. Like, I felt really good, like through Canary Wharf. And then like, yeah, all of a sudden, I think came out of Canary Wharf and got like a little bit of a stitch starting to come on. And you're like, okay, I've got to nurse this for a bit. And then, yeah, that last 10K was like a slog. But even though I was dropping off, I mean, I did similar to Lucy. I think when I knew I'd started to slow down, I sort of was like, you know what, I'm close enough. I don't need any splits here. Like, it's just get to the finish as quick as you can. Like, there's nothing good I'm going to see on my watch. Like, but luckily, like, even I think I dropped like a minute in the last 5K compared to what I'd sort of been averaging. But not a single person went past me. Like, I was still overtaking people. Like you said, Lewis, you get those good vibes. You just race, you get your head down. You could, along embankment, you can see for miles. So it's like, get the next one, head up, like, who's up next, get them. And then, yeah, it wasn't until well, I don't know. I was quite aware, I think, from doing mini marathon, like, I knew exactly where I was. You're waiting for Big Ben to get like bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know, I hit 25 miles here. That still looks like it's like, that looks like it's like 5 miles away. And yeah, like coming down, hit the 385 yards to go sign, and I saw it was on like, the clock was on, just ticked over like 2:19. I was like, I don't even know what 385 yards is, but I probably need to probably need to kick a bit here. Yeah, thankfully got in underneath the 220. I think I'd have been buzzing either way, but it obviously sounds a lot nicer.
Yeah, it's well, kudos for you still having legs at that point, because I know a few people have probably tried to respond at that point and gone, oh no, there's nothing there. So yeah, fair play. It's definitely a lesson for people listening as well. And I personally think about, half a mile after halfway is the nicest part of the course in London. And I think people get rolling along there and they really find a rhythm. And I think that's what you did, Charlie. You were rolling. It's really nice. And then you saw the elites dropping off as well. It's like the carrots there. But yeah, Canary Wharf is tough. It's warm, it's twisty, it's turny. And then you just come out the other side and there's a little bit of a climb. And I find that's where people then really find out where they are.
I think it was that bit coming out of Canary Wharf. Where the hell am I?
Yeah.
It was like, this is going on forever. I was so happy once you sort of get onto that out and back bit on the highway and okay, I know where we are now. Tower Bridge, like a mile up the road. Yeah, it was a slog. I always felt like from my training that I'd be able to, I think I said after, die with dignity a bit. I'd fall off. If I fell off, I felt like I'd be able to slow to 5:30 miling instead of completely just off a cliff. So I was quite happy to manage to do that. And yeah, I think I had a very good race plan that was Jeff did very detailed for me, that I feel like I was on course to execute it, but I think on another day maybe.
Yeah,
10K right.
Especially without the heat, that played a part for sure. Yeah. And I think I looked at some statistics, and even though your second half slowed slightly, I mean, it wasn't much. You were in a couple of percent. You were still, up there with the fastest over the second half, and that was, again reflected in the results that you came through to finish 7th in the masses. And I think you still overtook a good chunk of people within that second half. So even though you were slowing slightly, there was people going way back. So yeah, a strong second half, which was brilliant. Well done to you both. Fantastic results. I guess to round things off, reflecting on what has been, an amazing build up and such a good day. Like we said, Lucy, it can go well. It sometimes doesn't for people, and there'll be people hoping to bounce back. But what's next on the menu for you both? What does the rest of 2025 look like? Lucy, just give us a quick overview as to where we might see you next.
Yeah, I've taken a week off, and then I'm literally just going to drop straight down onto the track. I've got a 5K in sort of 3 weeks' time, 3.5 weeks. I'm going to do a couple of 5Ks, and then I'll drop down to 3 and 15s until for the back end of the season. I might try and run the 5K at British Champ, see how that goes, and just have a really good track season. I'd really like to PB across the board and give that a go, and then into some meaty cross country because I love that. So that's it.
Nice.
Really, cross country season.
Another marathon in 2025 or not? Are you staying away from it
not
this year?
Not in 2025. I don't think. Jeff's definitely said, although I really want to, I'm probably not allowed in 2025. But I think definitely early 2026, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
Nice. So maybe something like Seville or London again. Who knows?
It might have to be London again, to be honest.
There you go. Well, fairy tale, so why not? Charlie, where will we see you next? What's your plans?
I have no idea. My training went up to London and then just nothing. So I'm sitting down with Jeff Rowe this week. I'm sure he has an idea. I'd like to get on the track, certainly this summer. And then I sort of said, I definitely like to do London again next year, and then maybe a marathon again later in the year. One of those ones. It'd be nice to do a marathon block for the summer when the weather's good and everything. But we'll see. I'm sort of just recovering from this one. Probably another week easy, and then start to get back into it. And sort of ride the high of it as long as you can, because I'm sure Lucy's got it, and then some. Just like, when it's going well, it's going well and it's easy. You want to keep that feeling going as long as you can.
I couldn't agree anymore. I've been in the corner of too many people where they've had a bad day and it's gut wrenching for them, and and it takes them a while to get over it. So when it does go well, we've all know that we've had those bad days in the sport. You should enjoy it and let that feeling last. So you've earned the right to recover. You've earned the right to enjoy yourself, and you've earned the right to kind of enjoy the moment as well, particularly with like family and friends as well, who you've like both touched upon, like coaches, training partners, family, who've all been part of that journey. Like, enjoy that time with them as well, which it sounds like you've both been doing. So yeah, fantastic. Well, a big thank you from me to you both for joining us. That has been, one of the best episodes that I've certainly sat through and enjoyed. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to both your stories, and I guess seeing it come to life on the marathon day also makes that a little bit more special. And I know our audience will have taken a lot from that as well. So yeah, a big thank you to both for sharing that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed
Cheers,
it.
Thanks. And yeah, best of luck for the rest of the season. I hope it goes well. I'll see you on a track or the road with a lot less crowds. And so hopefully you can still take a lot of enjoyment from that. But yeah, I'm sure the best is still to come over the marathon for you both. Thanks again, both. And thanks to everyone who's been tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.